Why can't you keep those hands out of that chip jar? Let me explain. I recently received an email from a client, and he was really frustrated with himself because he says during the holidays, when he walks by a bag of chips, a bowl of chips, he can't keep his hands out of it. And he wanted to know, is that just him being weak? And the answer is unequivocally no. The very first thing that I always want you to think about is if you're craving chips, what kind of stress are you currently going through? What people don't realize is when the body's under a lot of stress, and again, stress comes in a lot of different formats. I always say it's the big four: personal, professional, financial, and athletic. So if the stress levels are really, really high, what you don't realize is that your pancreas is releasing insulin as a response to stress. And when your blood sugar levels are fluctuating and things are starting to get into disarray, you actually will crave simple sugars, i.e. that's what potato chips are when you narrow them down. What ends up happening is you start to crave simple sugars. Well, in this form, it just happens to be potato chips. So first and foremost, when you find yourself digging your hand in there, now don't get me wrong, if you just enjoy a chip, that's fine. But he's saying he almost has like an addictive personality that when he goes by it, he doesn't know why. Number one, look at stress. Number two, ask yourself, when was the last time that you ate? Very similar to when you're under a lot of stress, if you have low blood sugar levels, that becomes stressful on the human body. And when you ever notice, like, especially when we were back in middle school, we were in school all day long, and when we got home, we wanted to raid that pantry. Well, what does the pantry consist of? Something that's in a box, a bag, or a can, which for the most part is processed carbohydrates. So if it's been a long time since you've eaten, I always say please graze every couple hours to keep your blood sugar levels stabilized. If it's been more than a couple hours and you're finding yourself grabbing for those chips, it could just be simply your brain's telling you we're hungry. So keep that in mind as well. Unfortunately, my client was thinking that he didn't have the discipline. I'm trying to help him understand, is it stress related, or is it maybe you've gone too long since your last meal or your last snack? And then the last thing I want you to think about, particularly when it comes to salty chips, is are you a big sweater? If you follow us or have followed me for any period of time, I own my own sports drink company known as Energy Fuel. And the Energy Fuel has been researched and put together based on intensity and duration. And the reason why I share it with you in this video is we add electrolytes, an additional amount of electrolytes into our Energy Fuel because that's what you lose when you sweat. So if you notice that you have a very, you're drawn towards salt, it could be that you're a heavy sweater, particularly of the element of the electrolyte, excuse me, I'm tongue twisted there. You may be somebody who is a big sweater of salt. You'll notice that electrolytes have a tendency to work in pairs. Sodium and potassium, for example, work together. You'll see that referred to as the sodium-potassium pump if you research that at all. Coming back to the original question, why would you possibly be craving simple sugars? It's because, craving potato chips, because they're a simple sugar that has salt and they have a little bit of fat in them, especially if you're doing the regulars. Please don't ever eat low-fat, no-fat chips. Absolute garbage. If you're going to have a chip, do a full-fat chip because the fat in the chip, the oil, is actually going to satisfy appetite, and you'll eat, more than likely, you'll eat progressively less volume of full-fat chips than you will low-fat, no-fat chips because the macronutrient of fat satisfies appetite. So stop and think about those three elements. If you're stressed, if you have an electrolyte deficiency, i.e. sodium, and or you've gone too long since your last meal, that could be a reason why you can't pass up that chip jar. Now, does that mean that I don't enjoy chips? I absolutely do enjoy chips. It's just a matter of, I want you to differentiate, is it because your body's craving something, or is it just because you enjoy a handful of chips here and there? Remember, it's not something that we advocate that you eat every single day in abundance, but eating it occasionally is no big deal. That's where consistency in your training really, really helps you out. Speaking of helping you out, if there's anything that we can do to answer a question or a frustration, do some research for you, please do me a favor. Send us a direct email, contact@coachrob.com. We're putting out a video every day here on YouTube answering your questions. And again, the numbers of emails that are coming in is increasing exponentially, and we thank you for that. Please like and subscribe. We deeply appreciate that. Thank you for your time watching this video, and we hope to see you again tomorrow.